When 37 employees' jobs were threatened by my own family, I had to choose between loyalty and truth. What I discovered about my brother-in-law's past left everyone speechless. Blood runs thicker than water, my brother-in-law Michael said, sliding the partnership papers across my kitchen table. Don't let greed destroy what family built together. 7 days later, my phone erupted with desperate calls from investors, creditors, and former employees, all asking the same question. How did Michael's empire crumble so spectacularly? 3 decades of building relationships taught me to read people, but Michael had perfected the art of deception. We were gathered for our monthly family barbecue when he made his move, that calculated smile never leaving his face as he nursed his craft beer. The way he studied my reactions, measured each word, I should have recognized the predator beneath the family man facade. For 11 years, I'd poured my soul into Davidson Engineering Solutions. Started with nothing but a borrowed laptop in my spare bedroom. Survived on ramen noodles and determination while working 100-hour weeks. Now we occupied 3 floors of a downtown office building, employed 37 people who trusted me with their livelihoods, and maintained contracts worth over $2 million annually. I'd built something meaningful, something lasting, but I never flaunted success at family gatherings. That was our unspoken code. Michael kept circling back to my company like a shark sensing blood. So these municipal contracts you mentioned, they're locked in for how long? The question dripped with manufactured casualness, but his eyes burned with an intensity that made my skin crawl. How's your cash flow during the slow months? Must be challenging managing overhead with seasonal fluctuations. My wife Rebecca caught the undercurrent immediately. Under the table, her fingers found mine, our silent alarm system perfected over 15 years of marriage. If Rebecca sensed danger, that meant everything. She knew Michael better than anyone, had watched him manipulate their family since childhood. Just keeping busy enough to pay the bills, I deflected, reaching for the potato salad. How's your consulting firm handling the market downturn? Michael's expression flickered for a microsecond. Challenging times, but that's exactly why family partnerships make sense. We weather storms together, share resources, combine our strengths. The conversation shifted, but that night, driving home through empty suburban streets, Rebecca finally voiced what we both knew. He's drowning, she whispered, staring out the passenger window. Mom mentioned his company's hemorrhaging money, suppliers threatening lawsuits, clients jumping ship. He owes everyone. I nodded, keeping my eyes on the familiar route home. His questions weren't exactly subtle tonight. The desperation was showing through the charm. Rebecca hesitated, then delivered the blow I'd been expecting. He's going to ask you for help. A partnership proposal. Would you even consider it? And there it was, the family obligation wrapped in emotional manipulation. He's family, David. He's drowning, and we're the only life preserver in sight. Blood runs thicker than water, right? The following Tuesday, Michael materialized in my office unannounced. Jennifer, my office manager, intercepted him at reception. Your brother-in-law is here. Seems urgent, she warned through my desk phone. Something about a time-sensitive opportunity. Michael burst through my door radiating false energy, all backslaps and enthusiasm. David, my man. Just happened to be downtown, thought I'd check out your setup. This place is incredible, really impressive operation you've built here. He prowled around my office like he was appraising real estate, handling my awards, studying the client photos on my walls. You know, I've been thinking about synergies between our companies, he continued, settling into the chair across from my desk. Your engineering expertise, my business development connections, we could revolutionize the municipal contracting space. I've got investors practically throwing money at expansion opportunities. He produced a leather portfolio, spreading glossy presentations across my desk. Look at these projections. We could quadruple your revenue within 18 months. All we need is strategic restructuring, bring in some capital partners, streamline operations for maximum efficiency. The numbers looked impressive, but something felt poisonous about the whole presentation. I appreciate the thought, Michael, but we're satisfied with our current growth trajectory. Steady, sustainable, manageable expansion that doesn't compromise quality. His mask slipped just long enough for me to see the predator underneath. Don't be short-sighted, David. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And Rebecca completely agrees with the strategic vision. Blood runs thicker than water. Surely you understand family obligations. That hit like a physical blow. You discussed this with Rebecca before approaching me? Of course, she's my sister. She understands how family businesses create generational wealth. Don't make this unnecessarily complicated, David. Nobody respects a man who puts personal greed above family loyalty. I stood slowly, my chair rolling back. I think we should continue this conversation another time, with Rebecca present to clarify her position. Michael's smile turned predatory. Just so you're aware, I've already briefed Mom and Dad about the opportunity. They're thrilled about the boys finally working together. Don't disappoint them, David. Family expectations matter. That evening, my phone exploded with coordinated pressure. Rebecca's parents, her aunts, even her cousin Sarah, all suddenly experts on business partnerships and family loyalty. Everyone had opinions about the wonderful opportunity Michael was offering, how family enterprises built lasting legacies. Rebecca was waiting when I arrived home, her face a map of conflicting emotions. "Why didn't you tell me Michael approached you?" she asked, not meeting my eyes. "I thought we shared everything important." "It happened today," I replied, loosening my tie. "But apparently half the family knew about it before I did." "He's genuinely excited about this partnership," she said, finally looking at me. "Mom says his investors are threatening to withdraw funding. He needs this opportunity, David. He needs us." I sat heavily on our couch, the weight of manipulation settling on my shoulders. "Rebecca, something's fundamentally wrong here. I spent the afternoon researching his company. There are troubling patterns. Failed ventures, angry former partners, lawsuits that disappeared through quiet settlements. He's learned from past mistakes," she insisted, but her voice lacked conviction. "This partnership represents his chance to prove himself, to contribute something meaningful to the family legacy. Please, David, just consider the possibilities." Later that night, my phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. "Strange question. Did you authorize Michael to request our client contact database? He called, claiming you approved sharing our municipal contract details. Says it's for partnership due diligence." I stared at the screen, my stomach turning to ice. From the bedroom, I could hear Rebecca on the phone, her voice hushed but intense. Probably coordinating with Michael, planning the next wave of family pressure. This wasn't about helping a struggling relative anymore. This was about something far more sinister. The next morning brought revelations that changed everything. I arrived at the office to find Michael holding court in our break room, regaling my employees with tales of exciting upcoming changes. He'd brought gourmet coffee and artisanal pastries, the expensive kind from that boutique bakery across town. Michael possesses a dangerous charisma when he chooses to deploy it. He has this gift for making people feel special, chosen, like they're part of something bigger than themselves. I watched from my office doorway as he worked his way through the staff, learning names, asking about families, sharing carefully crafted jokes that made everyone laugh. Jennifer appeared at my elbow, her expression troubled. "He's been here since dawn, telling everyone about the revolutionary changes coming to the company. People are worried about their jobs, asking if they'll survive the transition." Before I could respond, Michael spotted me through the glass. "David, perfect timing. I was just explaining to the team how our partnership will create incredible opportunities for career advancement. Everyone seems genuinely excited about the possibilities." I kept my voice level, conscious of 37 pairs of eyes watching this exchange. "Michael, we need to discuss this privately, in my office. Now." His friendly facade cracked slightly. "Look, I'm trying to make this transition smoother for everyone. Change creates anxiety, but when the staff sees us collaborating, it builds confidence in the future." "There is no us," I said quietly. "This is my company. I haven't agreed to anything. We haven't even had a proper conversation about terms, conditions, or expectations." He leaned back in his chair, something cold and calculating flickering behind his eyes. Funny thing about that, I had lunch yesterday with Robert Chen. My blood pressure spiked. Robert was our largest municipal client, responsible for 40% of our annual revenue. He seemed fascinated by my ideas for modernizing municipal engineering services. Michael continued with surgical precision, especially when I mentioned the significant investment backing we have secured for expansion. You know, Robert and my father go way back, college roommates, actually. Did you know they still golf together every Thursday? The implied threat hung in the air like smoke. I gripped the edge of my desk until my knuckles went white. Get out of my office. Now. Don't make hasty decisions you'll regret, he said, rising slowly. Family dinner tonight at Mom and Dad's house. We can discuss everything properly then. Bring Rebecca. She's been invaluable in helping me understand the bigger picture. The day dissolved into chaos. Rumors spread through our office like wildfire, complete corporate restructuring, outside investment, new management hierarchy. By noon, 7 employees had requested private meetings about job security. I tried calling Rebecca repeatedly, but she was avoiding my calls, finally responding with a terse text. Please just come to dinner. Everyone wants to help figure this out. The family dinner was orchestrated psychological warfare. Not just Rebecca's parents, but her entire extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, even Sarah, who typically avoided family drama. They'd assembled like a tribunal, ready to deliver judgment on my selfishness. David, honey, my mother-in-law began with practiced sympathy. We're here because we love you both. Michael has presented the financial projections. This partnership could transform both companies. He secured commitments from serious investors, my father-in-law added, leaning forward with authority. Major players in municipal development, but they need definitive answers soon. Opportunities like this don't wait for hesitation. I looked at Rebecca, searching for support, but she was studying her plate with intense concentration. Has anyone actually met these investors? I asked the room. Seen documentation of their commitments? Verified their track record with similar partnerships? Are you calling your brother-in-law a liar? Rebecca's aunt gasped, clutching her chest in theatrical outrage. I'm asking fundamental business questions, I replied evenly. The same due diligence questions I'd ask anyone proposing to acquire my company. Acquire. Michael laughed, but the sound held no warmth. This is a partnership, David. Though speaking of questions, some of your clients have been making interesting inquiries lately. About stability, about succession planning, about whether Davidson Engineering has the resources for long-term growth. Sarah suddenly spoke up, her voice cutting through the family noise. Michael, are you threatening him? Of course not, he replied smoothly. I'm simply pointing out market realities. Clients prefer working with companies that have solid financial backing and clear strategic vision. David's being offered an extraordinary opportunity, and paranoia is clouding his judgment. The conversation exploded from their voices overlapping, accusations flying, everyone talking past each other about family loyalty and business sense. Only Sarah remained quiet, watching Michael with an expression I couldn't quite read. Finally, Rebecca stood up, her voice shaking with emotion. David, please just sign the preliminary partnership agreement. Show some good faith. We can negotiate details later, but this hostility is tearing the family apart. I stared at her, this woman I'd loved for 15 years, who I thought knew me better than anyone. You want me to sign over my life's work based on vague promises and emotional manipulation? I want you to help my brother, she shouted, tears starting. Why is that so impossibly difficult? He's family, David. We don't abandon family when they need us most. The room fell silent, the weight of expectation crushing down on me. I stood slowly, looking around at all these people who claimed to love me, who were willing to sacrifice everything I'd built because blood runs thicker than water. Then I walked out. Driving home through familiar streets that suddenly felt foreign, my phone began buzzing incessantly. First, a text from Jennifer. Boss, we need to talk urgently. It's about Michael and Robert Chen, plus some other developments you need to know about immediately. Then Sarah. Don't sign anything. I'm investigating something from Michael's past. Give me 24 hours. Finally, Rebecca. I'm staying at my parents' tonight. I can't believe you'd abandon family like this. I pulled into our empty driveway, my mind racing with possibilities. Tomorrow would determine everything: my company, my marriage, my future. But first, I needed to understand exactly what kind of war Michael was waging against me. Because this had stopped being about family the moment he threatened my clients. I met Jennifer at an all-night diner at dawn, far from the office and prying eyes. She was already there, laptop open, looking like she hadn't slept in days. The moment I slid into the booth, she turned the screen toward me. "Remember those investors Michael keeps mentioning?" she said without preamble. "I pulled up some records, there aren't any." "Well, not anymore. They withdrew from his company 4 months ago, citing fundamental concerns about business practices and financial management." She showed me a series of emails that painted a devastating picture. Everything Michael had promised about backing and expansion opportunities was pure fiction, smoke and mirrors designed to mask the collapse of his own empire. "How did you get these?" I asked, scanning the damning correspondence. "Sarah," she replied. "Turns out one of the withdrawn investors was her ex-husband. When she heard Michael's pitch at dinner, something triggered her instincts. She made some calls, called in some favors. The documents revealed a company in terminal decline and months of missed payroll, suppliers threatening lawsuits, clients fleeing en masse. But that wasn't even the most disturbing revelation. He's been meeting with Robert Chen behind your back," Jennifer continued, her voice tight with anger. "Promising massive discounts on municipal projects if Robert helps pressure you out. He's doing the same with other clients, trading on your reputation while setting up to strip the company for parts." My phone buzzed to Rebecca again. "Mom and Dad want to host another family meeting tonight. Please come. We can fix this together." I silenced the phone and looked back at Jennifer. "What about our employees? How much damage has he done internally?" Jennifer's expression darkened. "He's been making promises he can't keep. Told Marcus he'd double his salary, offered Lisa that senior engineering position she's wanted. But look at this." She pulled up another document. "His company's payroll history shows a pattern of late payments, bounced checks, employees going months without compensation before finally quitting." The diner bell chimed, and Sarah walked in carrying a thick manila folder. She looked exhausted but grimly determined. "Thank God you're both here," she said, sliding into the booth beside Jennifer. "It's worse than we thought. Much worse." She spread papers across the table like evidence at a crime scene. "This isn't Michael's first attempt at corporate cannibalism. 3 other companies, all successful small businesses, all approached during vulnerable periods, all eventually bankrupted after he gained control. He has a system," Sarah explained, her voice clinical. "He identifies stable companies, usually through family or personal connections, then uses emotional manipulation to pressure his way inside. Makes grandiose promises about expansion and investment, then systematically strips everything valuable before moving on to the next target." She showed me newspaper clippings, court documents, bankruptcy filings, a trail of destruction spanning nearly a decade. The lawsuits always got settled quietly because nobody wants family drama becoming public record. "Does Rebecca know?" I asked, though I already suspected the answer. Sarah's expression softened with sympathy. "She doesn't want to know. None of them do. It's easier to believe Michael's just trying to help family, that his past failures were learning experiences rather than a deliberate pattern of predatory behavior." My phone kept buzzing messages from the in-laws, from Rebecca, even from Michael himself. All variations on the same theme. Family comes first. Don't be difficult. Think about Rebecca's happiness. I turned the phone face down and looked at my unlikely allies. "What's our next move?" "First, we document everything," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Every email, every promise, every threat. Then we talk to Robert Chen, show him what's really happening. And then..." The diner door chimed again. Rebecca stood there, her face a mixture of confusion and growing dread. She walked slowly to our table, staring at the papers spread out like accusations. "Is it true?" she whispered. "All of it?" Sarah gestured to the empty space beside her. "Sit down, Rebecca. You need to see this." For the next hour, we walked her through everything: the failed companies, the burned investors, the bounced checks, the systematic manipulation. Every lie, every false promise, every calculated move designed to destroy other people's life work. Rebecca didn't speak, just read document after document, her hands trembling slightly as the scope of Michael's deception became clear. When she finally looked up, her eyes were red but determined. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice barely audible. "I should have seen it. Should have questioned why everyone needed to pressure you so hard if this was really such a good opportunity." "Don't," I said. reaching for her hand. You couldn't have known. He's had years to perfect this act. Before she could respond, my office number rang. Jennifer answered, her face going pale as she listened. "They're in the building," she said, hanging up. "Michael and your father-in-law. They're telling employees they're taking over management effective immediately. They're trying to access our financial systems." I stood up, my chair scraping against the diner floor. "Call building security. Lock down everything. Now." Rebecca grabbed my arm. "Let me come with you. I need to face him. Need to stop this madness before it destroys anyone else." The drive to the office was tense, filled with the weight of what was coming. More messages flooded and employees confused and frightened, clients asking what was happening to their projects. But now we had proof. Now we had the truth. "You know this means walking away from them," I told Rebecca as we pulled into the parking lot. "Your parents, the whole family, they'll never forgive you for choosing me over Michael." She squeezed my hand, her grip steady and sure. "No, it means stopping a predator from hurting anyone else. Real family doesn't destroy each other for profit, David. Blood might run thicker than water, but poison runs thicker than both." Through the lobby windows, I could see Michael gesturing angrily at building security, my father-in-law on his phone, probably summoning more family pressure. "Ready?" I asked. Sarah and Jennifer flanked us, carrying boxes of evidence that would destroy Michael's carefully constructed facade. Rebecca straightened her shoulders, transformation visible in her posture. "They wanted a family meeting," she said with quiet steel. "Let's give them one they'll never forget." We walked in together, armed with truth, ready to show everyone exactly what family loyalty really meant. I never sought revenge. I just wanted to protect what I'd built. But Michael forced this confrontation, made it impossible to resolve quietly. By the time we reached the office that morning, he'd already crossed every line. Building security had cleared the lobby when we arrived. Michael and my father-in-law stood near the elevators, faces flushed with rage and frustrated entitlement. The moment they saw Rebecca walking beside me, everything exploded. "You turned my own sister against me," Michael shouted, his mask of civility finally slipping completely. "You manipulated her with lies and paranoia." Rebecca stepped forward, her voice cutting through his hysteria. "No, Michael. You did that yourself. Show them, David." I handed security copies of everything we discovered while calling the police non-emergency line. Reported trespassing and attempted corporate espionage. Watched Michael's expression change as he realized this wasn't going according to his script. "You're making a catastrophic mistake," my father-in-law warned, his voice shaking with impotent authority. "This family will never forgive this betrayal. Never." "Funny thing about forgiveness," I replied, opening my laptop. "Robert Chen is waiting on a video call right now. He'd like to discuss all those promises you made, Michael. All your plans to strip my company for parts." Robert's face appeared on screen, along with 3 other major clients. All of them had received Michael's proposals. All had recordings of his promises, his schemes to gut Davidson Engineering from the inside. "The investors you claimed were backing you," I continued, pulling up another screen. "They're on the call too. They're very interested in where their previous investments went, especially given the fraud allegations surfacing from your other ventures." That's when Michael tried to run. Security stopped him at the door while my father-in-law began shouting about family loyalty, about ungrateful in-laws destroying sacred bonds. Then Sarah played the recording, the one where Michael bragged to a former associate about his takeover methods, about how easy it was to manipulate family businesses using emotional manipulation and manufactured crises. The police arrived as Michael's phone started ringing incessantly. Turns out creditors were very interested in his sudden attempt to acquire a successful company, especially with his own business accounts frozen pending investigation. But I wasn't finished. "Jennifer," I said quietly, "send the packages we prepared." Everything we discovered, every document, every recording, every piece of evidence went out simultaneously. To every employee Michael had ever cheated, every investor he'd defrauded, every family he'd manipulated. Not just from this attempted takeover, but from all his previous schemes stretching back years. By mid-afternoon, Michael's world was collapsing in real time. 3 former business partners filed lawsuits. 2 investors pressed criminal fraud charges. His remaining clients abandoned him en masse. His office was padlocked by creditors before the day was over. The family group chat exploded with panic messages. Relatives who'd pressured me just days earlier were desperately backpedaling, especially after learning Michael had borrowed money from most of them, money they'd never see again. Blood runs thicker than water. I told my father-in-law a security escorted him from the building. So I'm protecting my family, my employees, my clients, my wife from someone who'd destroy them all for personal profit. The following week was chaos as Michael's schemes unraveled completely. The lawsuits multiplied daily. Former employees came forward with more horror stories. His reputation was demolished not by my revenge, but by his own actions finally seeing daylight. Rebecca's parents attempted damage control, claiming ignorance, but their signatures appeared on documents from Michael's previous takeovers. Their social standing in the community crumbled as the full scope of their complicity became public knowledge. Then came the desperate calls. Michael, facing bankruptcy and criminal charges, begging for money to fight the lawsuits. Family members realizing their investments and loans had vanished. Former business associates scrambling to distance themselves from the wreckage. Neither Rebecca nor I answered those calls. We did answer Sarah, though she'd received threats from Michael, apparently blaming her for his exposure. So I hired personal security for her and offered her a position with Davidson Engineering. Real family protects its own. 1 month later, I sat in my office reading the latest headlines. Michael's assets frozen, criminal trial pending, his wife filing for divorce, former partners turning state's evidence against him. A decade of predatory behavior finally catching up. Rebecca knocked and entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Mom called again," she said, settling into the chair across from my desk. "They want to apologize in person. Try to rebuild bridges." "Your choice," I replied. "Whatever you decide, I'll support." She considered this, sipping her coffee thoughtfully. "You know what I want? Peace. Distance. Time to appreciate the family we choose rather than the one that tried to destroy us for profit." My phone buzzed at Jennifer with an update. Our client base had actually grown since the confrontation. Apparently, companies appreciate working with businesses that stand up to corruption and protect their employees. Michael's final message arrived that evening. "You've destroyed me. I hope you're satisfied with the devastation you've caused." I didn't respond, just forwarded it to his attorney and blocked his number permanently. Sometimes the truth destroys people, but only because they built their lives on lies. Looking back now, I realize this was never about business partnerships or family loyalty. This was about power, manipulation, and the lies we tell ourselves about blood obligations versus moral obligations. Michael didn't fail because I wanted revenge. He failed because decades of predatory behavior finally caught up with him. The truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how deep you try to bury it. Our company is stronger now. Our real family, the people who chose integrity over manipulation, truth over convenient lies, is stronger too. The others, they made their choices when they decided profit mattered more than principles. They can live with those consequences. Blood runs thicker than water, Michael had said. He was right about that much. But what he never understood was that real family isn't about shared DNA, it's about shared values. And when someone betrays those values, when they use family as a weapon rather than a foundation, they forfeit their claim to that sacred bond. Some lessons cost everything to learn. Michael learned his too late. I learned mine just in time.